It's time to find out what's cooking. Here now is the head chef of the Pemberton Township Food Service Program and your host, Tim Paroli.
Hello, welcome to What's Cooking. I'm Tim Paroli, and today we're going to show you a medley of food that is going to be hopefully something different that you're going to try at home. Now, what we have selected for you today is a favorite among restaurants. However, it's very seasonal, and that is an eggplant parmesan. We're going to show you that today. I also have a soup for you that is very seasonal, and that is a Philadelphia pepper pot. And we're going to show you, since I've got some tripe out to make the pepper pot, we're going to also show you how to use that as an appetizer. Now, the first thing that I want to do is start you off with the soup. Now, I haven't raced ahead on you, so there's nothing that you've missed other than the fact that right here I've got a pot of boiling water going. And I've only got maybe an inch or two of water in there. And what I want to show you are the two main ingredients that are going to go into the pepper pot. Now, what we're going to show you that I did ahead of time, here I had a pressure steamer, and I put the tripe into a pressure steamer, and for a pressure steamer, you have to follow all the directions on it. Sometimes they'll take a half hour, sometimes it'll take even less. It depends on the pressure of the pot that you're using. But all I did is shorten my time. You take your honeycomb tripe, and there that is, and we're going to push that out of the way. And into this pot of water, we're going to add that juice from the tripe, and that goes right in there. And then I'm going to take the other container that I had, and all I took were some stewing cubes of veal. And I want you to get a peek of them. So we're going to, and I'm leaving them big. You can see the size of them right there, because with a pepper pot, it's kind of one of those seasonal soups. We have it whenever we have occasion to have the tripe, we'll make the pepper pot. However, most of the time, seasonally and commercially, you're only going to find this during the colder months. So the veal cubes and their juice go into that pot. So now I've got a pot with some veal cubes and its juice, all the veal in there, and I have the tripe here. Now, what I'm going to do is cut that a little different, because as you know, on this program, I try to get you to try things that are different, and you might be looking at the tripe and going, ew. So if you're doing that, what I'm going to do for you is set this up so that we take a piece of the tripe for the pepper pot, and the other half we're going to change that a little bit for an appetizer. Now, I'm going to just cut this. Now, tripe, when you first boil it, if you're going to boil this at home, the first time you boil it, it's going to shrink a little bit and it's going to get very rubbery. Don't panic, that's what it's supposed to do. After that, it's going to get tender. Now, the longer you cook it, the more tender it's going to get. And it's also very good for you because of the gelatin content that's in it. It's all natural, and it's got a lot of vitamins. And as a matter of fact, tripe was probably one of the biggest things that hospitals used to serve you if you had any kind of digestive trouble. So now we're going to cut them small. See, if you're making this for the family and you're going to fake them out, what I want you to do is you throw in the big pieces of the veal, so we've got those veal cubes in there, and then we take this tripe and we're going to cut this small. And then if we were to put a little spatula in there, or even if you don't have time for that and you just want to throw a handful of noodles in there, they're never going to tell them apart. Now, it got its name because we're going to put in the peppers, and we're also going to season this with a lot of pepper, so it's very, very peppery to taste. Okay, so I've got them all cut. And once these are tossed in there, and as I said, this does take some time to cook, so you'd start that early. But once you have this going, what you can add to it, any other starches that we're going to use would be some potato. You can do what I did, and that's just have a boiled potato and just keep that extra potato, and we're going to throw that right in there. So you cook an extra one off whenever you're going to have a soup. You just take that potato, and since our meats are already cooked and the stock is already in there, pepper pot, which used to take, well, it does commercially if you're going to make it, it's going to take you all day to make, and I mean that. It's going to take about 6 hours. By the time you get your potatoes ready and they're cooked down and you've got your tripe cooked down and the veal set up, and don't forget you're making a larger pot. But at home, we can plan ahead of time and have this all set and just keep that extra potato. So there's that potato already cooked. So that's going to go right in. Now we're going to take this and season the daylights out of it. Now what I mean by that is we're going to put a lot of different flavors in there because unlike a lot of foods I've shown you before, what I have found with these is that this is a very strong stock. It's very tough to overpower that. So you don't have to worry about putting a lot of spice and a lot of flavor and any other kinds of vegetables in there. So to color that up, you just take off your carrot, and we're going to just clean up the end of this just a little bit because, as I told you, we're cutting down on the time of this. And if I were to cut this carrot into chunks, and it would take us another 20 minutes to have that boiling, but we can add carrot and color to that very quickly, just like that. And now that's nice and small. We'll slide that onto my plate, and that goes right in. So now we've started to add some color to that. We're going to pick up some pepper, and we're going to put that right in there. And all we're going to do is strip this pepper out, and they're going to go into that. And then I'm just going to forget about that for a while. I'm going to let those flavors simmer together, and then at the end of our program, we're going to finish that soup off for you to take a look at it. But that's all there is to it. Now, from time to time, I may throw a couple more ingredients in there. And as I do, I'll tell you what we're doing. So now that my soup is on, I want to get ready to roll with our entree because that takes the longest amount of time. Now we're going to get ready to do our eggplant parm. And what we're going to need for that is some flour, eggs, and milk, and crumbs. Now, if you've watched previous programs, you know that for me, that's a standard breading procedure. Then we're going to use some paste, and that's always tomato paste, and all the stuff that we use to make up a nice tomato sauce. And it's just one that I use that goes together very quickly. And that's the reason that I like it. Since it does go together quickly, we're always ready with that, and it doesn't take us a whole lot of time to get that set up. So what we're going to do right now is I'm going to light my fire and put a skillet on the stove because we're going to get ready with the eggplant. And I want to show you the eggplants that I got because it's early in the season right now for eggplants. So these I purchased were flown in. They're probably Californians. But I wanted to just tell you, when you're going to purchase an eggplant, I don't want to take the greengrocer's job, but when you're going to buy these, you want to look for an eggplant that is smooth, that is very dark, and even in color and texture. We don't want an eggplant that's roughed up and misshapen. So they should have that shape to them, kind of like an egg. They should be very dark. They can be black to this purple color, and you're going to find it getting them that way. The size almost doesn't matter, but run toward the medium ones. The seeds are going to be smaller, and they're going to be a lot easier to eat. Now we're going to take and get our eggplant ready. We're going to just trim off the end of the eggplant. Now, if you've never cut fresh eggplant, it's really weird at first because they're inside, they're kind of spongy. And all we want to do with this now is just clean that skin right off of that. Now, the skin on this is not much thicker than a potato skin, but it's a very tough skin. So you can peel them down like this, or maybe your hands aren't as large as mine, and I want to show you what you can do to make this easier. Now, if you've got a lot to do, that'll be a different story. But take this eggplant and halve it again. All right? Put the big side down on the eggplant, and you're going to see that the eggplant stands right up. And this is a perfect shot because you can see where I cut it and where to begin and where to end. And just watch what we're going to do. We're going to just take that around. And now you're not worried because, and I know I'm not worried, because you're not going to be cutting towards yourself. And you're not going to mess it up at all. And you just cut those skins right off the eggplant. And if that eggplant is fresh, the inside should be very, very light and like a very dense sponge. All right? Now, once you have that eggplant cut to this size, we're going to lay it back over on its side, and we're going to cut this into discs. And I'm going to cut these. So I'm going to tell you, I'm not crazy about eggplant. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make them thinner. And when I make them thinner, that gives me two options with the, let me move that pan. That gives me an option with the eggplant. It's going to cook faster. Also, for the first time trying eggplant, You're not going to be overpowered by the flavor of it. So we're just going to cut them about 1/4 of an inch, really 1/4 of an inch. We're not even going to go to the 1/2 inch. You'll find people who love eggplant cut that 1/2 inch to 3/4 of an inch wide when they really enjoy the flavor of it. But for you trying it for the first time, I recommend you cut it nice and thin. Now these ends that you're going to have left over, what you can do with those is cut them into strips, and you can do that with a lot of your little discs. And what you'll find with these, the ends are the best, where they don't have the seeds going all the way through. What we're going to do with those is they're very good for an appetizer. Just like that, they're little breaded eggplant sticks. So we have our eggplant set, and that's ready to go. And now we're going to pull out a couple more of these trusty little pans, because I like them when I'm done, they're done. I don't have to worry about washing them up. All we're going to do now is take some flour, and I'm going to dip and dust or dredge the eggplants in the flour. And they feel very dry, but you'll be surprised. They'll really pick up on some flour. We'll just shake the excess off. There's some of the sticks we're going to show you. And then we're going to do a couple of discs. You just press that flour right on them. And it'll pick up the flour. And be sure you do the edges. And we'll do 2 more. And that's going to seal the eggplant. And it's also, in sealing the eggplant, it now makes the outside of the eggplant very dry. And now that we've got it real dry, it's going to pick up or take the egg wash. And all an egg wash is, you're saying, now I remember when you did this before, are some beaten eggs with milk. And we're just going to beat those. And we just beat the eggs up. And you want to make sure that you beat the eggs before you add the milk. If you're doing an egg wash and breading, and you see that, and French toast is another one. If you don't mix the eggs first, and then you put in the milk, before you mix the eggs, you'll never get the eggs completely beaten, and you always have pieces of the egg floating around. So we've got that, and now I'm going to stir in a little bit of milk. See, I don't put a whole lot of milk into this egg wash, because I want this to be a fairly strong egg wash. That is, that I want this eggs to be tough so that it will really, really coat that. All right, now I have my last pan. So we've already floured them, and I'm going to just take some fresh crumbs. Now, there's 2 ways of doing fresh crumbs. Long before we had the blenders, we used to take and have to freeze the bread and then grate it either by hand or through a machine. If you have a blender, you can take some fresh bread and just blend it, and it comes up really, really nice. And what that gives you is a nice, soft, large breadcrumb that's going to stick right to the product, and it's going to seal it real nice. So now into the pan, we're going to put some oil. And normally, if we're sauteing something, I don't put much oil in. But in this, we're going to fry these. So we're going to cover the entire bottom with oil. And that's going to be just a little bit more than we would use when we saute. And then all we're going to do to get these set up is dip them into the egg and then into the breadcrumb. Now, whenever you're breading, especially if you're breading large amounts, you want to make sure that you keep one hand wet, which would be the hand that's going into the eggs, and then another hand dry that's going into the breadcrumb. And we're just going to pat that. And now I'm going to do something that you've all seen, and I don't want to bore you too much. What I'm going to do is just take these eggplant pieces, and we're going to fry them till they're brown on both sides. And once that happens, well, you'll be back by then. I'll get to show you what we're going to do with our fried eggplant slices. So while I'm just frying away here, I'd like you folks at home to watch this.
Honey, it's Mom. Please let me in. I'm worried.
Learn to see the signs of mental illness. 2 out of 3 people who get help get better. For a free booklet, call the American Mental Health Fund.
For those who can make an engine sing. And we offer a course in heavy metal. Aim high, Air Force.
In Salisbury, Maryland, the hungry are being fed. In Wind Falls, Indiana, a man who learned to read at 47 is making sure others learn earlier. Every day, someone in America is doing something to light up another life. But there is so much more to do. The light to do it is within us all. We only need to share it. Call the Points of Light Foundation. Do something good. Feel something real.
Okay, welcome back. Now, what I'm setting up, so you know what happened, we just took the eggplants, I've got them out of the pan. I'm going to stick them in the oven just so they stay warm while I get the sauce ready for them. If you wanted to prepare these ahead of time, you can. Set them up ahead of time. I prefer to put them on these kind of pans. You stick them in a freezer bag, boom, you're all set. Or you can set them right on that pan and they can go in the refrigerator. And you can prepare them a day ahead and put the sauce and cheese on them the next day. Or, all the variety we've got here, you can get them completely ready and not put them in the oven. And then it's just a matter of popping them into the oven. Now I've got a little bit of the red sauce here, and that's just going to be a little bit of the paste and some water. And we've got that going. And since it's paste, I'm going to let you in on a secret. Tomato paste is nothing more than concentrated, cooked tomatoes. Now, you have to imagine, to take a tomato and cook it down that far, to get all the water out, it's got a lot of time. It's been cooked and cooked and cooked. And the biggest thing with tomato sauce, people will tell you, is you have to really cook it. Well, my friends, it's already been cooked to death. So when you set up this little sauce, it's going to be very, very quick. And it's also going to be very, very smooth. So the sauce will be ready. Just like that. And now I'm going to just remove that sauce, and I'm going to put a pan down so we don't dirty up the board. There we go. And there's the sauce, and we're going to set another fry pan, a saute pan, on that very fire. Because now we're going to get you ready and show you how to put this together. So I go back to my oven, and there's our eggplant. And to set them up, all we have to do is spoon some sauce over them. Now you're going to put a puddle of sauce right in the middle. And once you get that nice little puddle of sauce there, all we have to do now is put a little bit of cheese on them. We're going to, a little bit of the grated cheese, and then a little bit of our sliced up mozzarella or any other of your favorite. And that's going to go into our oven. Now my oven's rolling along at about 300 and, just at about 300 degrees. So we're going to just let that go in there and make sure I have it as hot as I'm telling you. And then by the time we're ready to show it to you, they should be done and they should be very nice. Now what I want to take is the rest of our honeycomb tripe, and we're going to saute that in this pan. So we're going to be going right to this pan, and then I'll be moving everything out of the way. All we're going to do is put a little bit of oil in here now. See, the difference is that in this pan, all we're going to do is saute this, and this gets cooked lightly and quickly in a small amount of fat. So we know what our saute is. Now I told you we're going to do stripes, so I want to put a little bit of variety into that, and I'm going to take some fresh chives. Instead of regular onion, I could put regular onion in there, and that would be white, but remember the tripe is white. So instead of putting the white in with the white, we're going to put in these green onions, these fresh onions, and they're going to go right in there. All right. Then I have something that I picked up, and this is a clove of garlic. You want to take a look at this and see the size of this. This garlic is very large. It's very easy to use. Yes, that's one clove. You just take that, and they're so easy to use. Now, if you're going to use a lot of garlic, it's called elephant garlic because of the size. It's an import, and it's very nice to use. You use it like an onion. All I'm going to do is take the end off of that because it's so large. Instead of a clove, now we use a piece of it. And that gets just cut up into small chunks, and we throw that right in there with our chives. Now, a lot of times you've seen us, and we will start off with the garlic, but today we don't have to brown the garlic because we're going to stay with that light flavor. And now we're putting in some pepper strips, a little more green. And remember, I told you this is good for an appetizer. This is something you, if you're going to spring on the family, we want to make you a small batch of it so that in case they don't really care for it, you've still got regular dinner to follow. And if they really enjoyed it, next time you can make it as an entree. You would just make a lot more of it, and this is served over a buttered noodle, and it's very good. So now we're putting in some yellow peppers. All this is peppers that we're putting in. And then we're going to take the remaining piece of tripe, and I'll put this out of the way, and I'm going to just cut this once long ways, and then we're going to cut this into some strips, the same as we cut our peppers. All right, now once they're in there, we're going to put some salt. Now you'll see that with the tripe, remember it's a boiled piece of meat and it's going to take a lot more salt. And some pepper, some grated cheese, red wine, a little of this, a little of that. And then what I want to do with that is put some red sauce right over top of it. And I'm going to move the red sauce pot out of the way. I'm going to give that a shake. And I'm shaking this so that I move all of that around, and you'll hear it'll stop once we've got all the sauce hot. There it goes. Then we're going to give that a stir. And they're all set now. This is best when it's enjoyed with a nice chunk of hard bread or rye or pumpernickel. Now I have to see how I've done with this and make sure we're all set. Ooh, not enough pepper or salt this time. There we go. And then I'm going to let that simmer. So that is what I'm going to do now is just switch our pots because we're going to finish up with our soup, and I'm going to just let these strips simmer. So they're going on a very low fire. And we're going to cover them just like that and let them simmer. And now we're going to take, and we have the little bit of our egg washes left over, and we're going to put some salt into that. Now, the salt that you're seeing going into everything is because we're using very starchy foods today. I'm using the flour and I'm using the tripe and things that are going to really take a lot to bring out their flavor, even though the flavor is kind of strong. And you want your pepper pot to be boiling away. Now, while you were gone, I threw into that a lot of pepper, a nice, about 2 or 3 generous pinches of black pepper. And I also put in there some salt. And I put a pinch of chicken base. So we've got our pepper pot simmering along there, and the little bit of potato that we put in there has already tightened it up. And now what we're putting in here is a type of a homemade noodle, and what's nice is with these two menus together, one will clean up the other one, and that's what we're after. Now all I've done is added enough flour to make this kind of a heavier batter. It's a lot heavier than a regular batter in the consistency, and that's what we're looking for. And with a little batch like this, you just pull that all to one side, and right over your soup pot, you're going to take that and you're going to just drop them right into that soup. And the only thing you have to watch for now is that we don't drop them right in on top of one another. So you're going to see I'm moving around, and we're putting them in there. And these are called spatzels. And what that is a different type of a starch instead of a pasta that you can add to the soup, and that's going to add some body to it. What I mean by that is they're going to take up some of the stock, so it's going to make your soup a little thicker, a little heartier, and it's going to give it extra flavor and another ingredient in your soup to enjoy. And it's also something different and very fresh. So there we have that. And you can see as they're done, they float to the top, and that lets us know that our pepper pot is ready. So we give that one stir to let the last of those cook, and then I want to show you what we have for you and how things have turned out. What I want to do is plate up for you we're going to put a bowl of our pepper pot out, and we're also going to show you some of our stripes, and I'm going to get you a plate so you can see how the eggplant came out. Because remember, I showed you that they can both be done as either the appetizer or the entree. Now they've been in that oven, and all we had to do was to melt the cheese because everything in here was already cooked. So we take our eggplant, and the nice thing when they're cut in the circles is you can really adjust to what you're going to serve, whether you're going to have one slice or two. It's as easy as pizza. And then we're going to scoop up my ladle over here. Our pepper pot boiling away there. And that's got the nice chunks of veal in it and the small pieces of the tripe. And it's got those fresh spatzels floating all around. So that's a really different, it's got a real different look to it. You're either going to really, really enjoy it, or you're going to find that it's the kind of soup that, you could take it or leave it. But that'll be a decision you'll make after you've made it. And then to finish up with our other portion of the tripe is our tripe stripes. And they're done in a nice red sauce. And they can be put right next to our eggplant sticks. And there are some foods for you that are very, very different. And they're quite inexpensive to make. You'll find that when you purchase these items out at the store that they're not that much. So try some eggplant when they come into season. If you don't have them in your garden, get them in there. And be sure to try some of our tripe stripes and pepper pot soup. This is Tim Paroli for What's Cooking. Thank you for watching.